So yesterday, some of you got to meet my brother of another mother, Bashar Shala. We have had a lot of experiences together over the years. My favorite one, though, I have to tell you, is riding back together from the Roger Waters concert in Nashville. That was amazing. Years ago, I never knew that Muslims liked Pink Floyd, but thank Lord they do. We had a great time. So I was telling my 91-year-old dad that I was excited about where I was going to preach this week. And Dad said, being a Baptist, "So you're preaching at Bellevue?" I said, "Don't hold your breath on that one, Dad." I said, "No, I don't think I'm going to do that." I said, I'm preaching at Calvary's Lenten preaching series. And he goes, "Huh." Galatians 5:14 is the text out of which I anchor my faith, which means the way I anchor my life. For the whole law can be summed up in this one command: love your neighbor as you love yourself. Other versions say that the whole law is fulfilled, filled up in that one command. That's all, folks. Not me, I got like 14 more minutes, but that's all. If two commands are too many for you, how about the one? And really, if you think about it, isn't loving our neighbor how we show God that we love God? Are you with me? So here's how I got here. Started out as a gleam in God's eye, as did all of you. About age 5, I was the darling of Parkin, Arkansas. Anybody? Parkin, Arkansas? There you go. Think Mayberry, but with way more country accents. My folks owned a small grocery store on Main Street, the only street, and I had my run of the town. If I took a banana from our grocery store down to the Rexall, they'd make me a banana split. And on the way back, I would stop at my great Uncle Bean's barbershop / pool hall. And if I went in and anybody was playing pool, they'd just stop so I could hold the balls around on the table. At the corner, in front of Bedour's department store, most days, sat my friend Jimmy, selling a bit of produce. He was as dark in complexion as anybody I'd ever seen in my life. And this gray stubble that he wore and his ever-ready smile made him a mixture of Santa Claus in denim overalls and adopted grandfather for me. And we would hang out and just enjoy laughing and talking and watching the world go by. One hot day, I was getting a drink from the fountain on the corner. Y'all remember those public fountains on the corner? I saw one in Seattle. I couldn't believe it. Almost took a picture of it. Still. I was getting a drink from that fountain, and I said, "Jimmy," he was sitting right next to it, like a few feet away with his little produce stuff. "Jimmy, come over and get a drink of this water. It is good. It is so cold." He said, "No, I don't want to do that. I got my little jug with me right here." I said, "Jimmy, come on. I'll help you get up." And I started walking over there. He said, No, that's all right. I said, "Jimmy, come on." He said, "I can't." And something about the nervous tone of his voice and how his eyes darted around made me stop asking. And I didn't know what, but at 5 years old, I knew something was wrong. Something seemed really wrong. And I could tell he was hurt. And I was hurt. That for some strange reason, he couldn't enjoy what I found so wonderful. And I couldn't understand why. It was, of course, years later that it dawned on me why he couldn't drink from that fountain and why I could, long after Jimmy was gone. And the pain of that living memory deepened my heart and soul knowledge that something was really wrong. And for Jimmy's sake and for mine and for the sake of our friendship, the course of my life was set to disregard and dismantle any barrier that anyone set up to divide people for any reason. I committed my life to working for and living out freedom from fear and ignorance for all who would open their hearts to love, as taught by Jesus. How did you get here? More specifically, I got here where I am in my adventure of a lifetime now, in this spot, because I decided to tell my fear and ignorance to go to hell, and instead find a way to love on some new neighbors. I blame it on Jesus. He's my true north. He's my Lord. When I heard that Muslims were moving in across the street from Heartsong, I felt that ungodly fear and ignorance twist in my stomach. And it was Jesus I turned to for what to do. What I do, Lord? I don't hear voices. Well, I do. You do too. We all hear voices. But this time it was the story that started playing in my heart, playing in my mind. The story of the Good Samaritan, where Jesus answered the question, who is my neighbor? By not only making the hero of the story one whom that crowd would have hated for no good reason, but then also said, now you go and be that kind of neighbor. In other words, I heard Jesus responding to my question about what to do with grab your fear and ignorance by the throat and tell it to go to hell and find some way to love those people. As a tribe of Jesus followers, Heartsong did. And our new neighbors, the Memphis Islamic Center, loved us back. And during the 10th anniversary of 9/11, when a hate-soaked so-called preacher was threatening to burn the Quran down in Florida, national and international news outlets kind of latched onto our story as an antidote to that poison. And over the years since then, we've continued to be the antidote to fear and ignorance for many who have longed for some way to make friends and love on neighbors, regardless of race, culture, faith, sexual orientation, politics, or any other imaginary human divider. And together as the Memphis Friendship Foundation, we are working hard to lead this community, this country, and our world to build Friendship Park of Memphis, a high-tech, high-touch experience of friendship making set in wondrous play. Think mini Epcot, Memphis. Don't tell Disney I said that. It will be a worldwide monument to friendship making, a place for celebrating friendships, and a launching pad for all kinds of ways to let that kind of joy and peace ripple out into the world that will really make this community, our nation, and the world a safer and more joyful place. I have brochures. They're out this door and out that door. I will take you to lunch. Bring your checkbook. $11 million. Now, don't get shocked when I say what I'm about to say now. I'll go ahead and get shocked, but don't walk out. No longer do I self-identify as a Christian. I know some fine ones. But for far too many, Christianity is defined, if not in words, in lifestyle, as something one believes. A list of beliefs. And instead of trying to distinguish myself from this list of beliefs or that list of beliefs, many of which have nothing to do with anything Jesus taught, and smack of cultural prejudices and political leanings of hate and sorting people into our people and other people, I just abandon the word. Let them have it. It could mean anything to anyone, and many times it means something tiny and even mean. Instead, for years now, I've self-identified as a Jesus follower. Same thing, you say? Oh, not to me. Christianity seems to be about what you believe. Following Jesus is about what you do. Following, how you spend your life. It's about taking his ways and means in and living them out. It's about loving God and your neighbor, period. It's about believing that love with a capital L is the most powerful force in the universe and living as if that's so. It's about what Jesus showed that crowd when he first told the story of the Good Samaritan. What the Good Samaritan did, let's call him Eisa, just so we don't have to keep saying the generic Samaritan. What Eisa did was not because of the condition of the man in the ditch, waylaid by robbers, left for dead. As dire as that man's condition was, what Eisa did was not because of that. What Eisa did in loving his neighbor was because of his own condition. What compelled him to do that? So many would not have done something like that. If you don't believe me, check it out on YouTube. You can see all kinds of stories of people just walking by folks in all kinds of dire situations. What compelled him? He was a super nice guy. Well, he was far more than that. You're nice gals, right? Nice guys. I bet you the priest and the Levite were super nice guys too. But he was one who decided to see the other as one with whom he had some kinship, something in common. He wasn't taught that by his culture. He probably wasn't taught that by his experience, but he decided. He decided that he had kinship with that other. That was beyond race, beyond culture, beyond faith. That must have been in his mind and in his thoughts, loving thoughts and prayers for that other. And something else, crucial for what he did, courage. Courage. I have decided to follow Jesus. You're not going to make me sing this by myself, are you? I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. No matter what. About 3 weeks ago, I went with an amazing team to Parkland, Florida. You heard of that place? To love on some of the parents and siblings whose loved ones had died, some first responders, many of the students who had lost dear friends. I told those kids that they were carrying the light for us. They were leading the way. And I told them about this guy from my faith tradition who had suffered immensely over a long period of time, who wrote, I've fought the good fight. I've finished the course. I've kept the faith. And then he imagined some afterlife reward for having done that. But he knew also, and they were finding out, these kids who are passionately leading the way, that fighting for love and staying at it and keeping strong and investing trust and loyalty in their cause, which is more and deeper love. These kids are learning that doing that is its own reward right now. And their wet eyes and their bodies as they leaned in said, Amen. And you knew that too. It was tragedy that pulled that out of the Parkland people. But other things do too, pulls that out of us. Shared experiences, helping strangers, holding doors, sharing food, smiling on purpose, making your life a moving festival of random acts of kindness. I know that's corny, but oh, Lord, how it works. Courage to make the first move. Do you think it was 5-year-old Stevie that reached out to Jimmy? I bet it was Jimmy that reached out to me. And because he did, now I do. Whose, and because they did, I do, will you be? Your adventure of a lifetime can be finding that out there. Was the story Jesus told of Asa factual? Had Jesus heard of such a thing? Did he know Asa? Was it factual? Or just true? Was it a true story? You tell me. Far better than that, show him. And show them, all those others out there, that it is a true story. With Palm Sunday looming, it would do us who follow Jesus well to remember that his journey didn't stop with the parade, with all the well-wishers and those who celebrated their cherished beliefs in him. He journeyed on to the cross, where he showed us the extent, the cost, and the promise of love lived out with everyone regardless of anything. It would do us good, and our part of this planet we inhabit, to remember that if we really want to follow him, his ways and means, and not just wave and wish him well as he goes out into each new day, that he didn't stop with the Palm Sunday parade, nor at the cross, really. In fact, I feel him beating in my heart right now. And I see him in your eyes peering out. May the world and every single one in it, the part of the world that is our sphere of influence, know that about him and know that about us. Would you sing with me one more time? You ever heard that old little camp song, Kumbaya? If you know it, sing it loud so if your neighbor doesn't, they can catch on. You ready? Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya. Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya. Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya. Oh Lord, Kumbaya. Now, we've sung a prayer to the Lord and made it specific. Come by here, Lord. Come by here. You ready for the answer? Come by here, Lord, in this situation, with these, with that one. You ready to hear his answer? Hear this to you personally, and I'll hear it to me. You ready? I will come by there. I'll be coming through